This is Emily from Grammy's Garden. This morning I'm going to be doing pickled beets. Last year I just enjoyed them so much, the gold ones and the red ones, and my family likes pickled better than just regular canned beets. I did canned beets about a week and a half ago. I think I had 6 pints, something like that. I don't think I did a video on it, but I'm going to do a video on this. I've got multiple recipes, and one goes way back to a USDA book that was my mom's, and she used ball information too, but the recipe was in there. There's a couple recipes, but I'm using a recipe from a new book that my daughter gave me. I want to look at the name of this book. It's excellent. I use it for so many things. Here we go. Can you see that? The Amish cookbook. The Amish canning cookbook. And it's not failed me yet, so I keep using it. And it's totally in conjunction with everything that's said by the USDA and that's said by the Ball Canning book, which is kind of like the book in my opinion. So anyway, here's what I got this morning. Lots and lots of them. I'm getting ready to get these tops cut down to, I'll show you, to about 1.5 inches. And I'm going to take off some of the root, not all of it. If I took off all the root, it would bleed into the water. And I want that beautiful red color to be in my jars. So anyway, off we go, and I'll get back whenever I'm ready to get these boiling. I've got a thing on the stove here. I'll show you. Do lots of turning around. Here you go. I've got my water bath canner, because I've got so many beets. I've got my water bath canner right now heating up, because the beets are going to need to boil. I'm going to boil these because I have some pretty large ones for about 20 minutes. And then I'll take them and put them in cold water. And it's not really like blanching. That's just to cool them down. I just want them to cool down so I can go ahead and just slip those skins off of them and not have to peel everything. So we'll just go ahead on this process. I've got my jars all clean, the lids, everything's ready to go. And I will be putting them in warm water because I'll be putting in hot water because I'll be packing hot beets and with like a hot syrup. Over here, I'm going to be preparing the syrup, and I'll tell you the recipe that I'm going to use for the pickling itself. So off we go. Wow, they're so nice and crisp. I just pulled these. I'm having to make space for other things, and I have things that are growing and they're in the same bed, in my raised bed, and they're not getting enough. I don't think they're getting enough nutrition because we've got all these other crops in there with them, and these are definitely ready. I'm thinking about pulling my cauliflower. My cauliflower is terribly infested. Terribly. I don't know how else to put it. Terribly infested with worms. And had a really beautiful head of cauliflower, and brought it in, and I saw a worm, and I mean there was wormholes all over. I didn't use netting this year. I've been kind of like meeting myself going and coming with this gardening season, and I want to slow it down and enjoy it a lot more. So anyway, the cauliflower, in my opinion, is a bust. The broccoli and cabbage aren't, so that's a good thing. So back to beets. Okay, I've got several pounds of beets here ready to go in. My water's almost boiling. And then I have some smaller size that I actually thought I would just not cook them as long. I don't know, I decided why make this process harder for myself. These will get much softer. They may not be kind of what we would want. I mean, they're gonna taste excellent, and that's what I have to get down to this morning. So, taste is everything with this stuff, and I like to see beautiful, beautiful veggies in jars too. Okay, while that's on, and coming to a boil, I'm going to get some onions ready. And I guess I'll just put them in this. It's handy. So I'm going to use 2 good-sized onions, and I'm going to slice them. And I hope these are good onions. These are onions that I buy at Sam's Club that I really like a lot. I've been buying them for over a year from them. But my onions don't do so good, and this year's not going to be a good year for onions for me. I can already tell. The green onions are doing great. The onions I started from seed are kind of like, So, you know, when you're gardening, it's important for everybody to keep in mind, if you can, that you can watch YouTube videos and you can see amazing stuff. But if it's just you, or just you and your partner, and you're working, maybe you have another job, you have children, you have livestock, maybe you just have one of those things, but and you have to keep a house clean, and you have to keep the laundry done, you know. I guess I'm talking to myself right now. It's okay not to have everything turn out 100%. My onions are going to be 2% maybe. So anyway, I'm going to slice this up. This is going to be a big part of this. I'm going to put this down in the jar. Onions, and they're going to pickle, and they're going to be delicious. Okay. While those are cooking, I'm going to mix up the syrup or the pickling juice. Let's see, I think it's 4 cups of vinegar. This is 5%. This is a 2-cup measure. So there's 2. All winter long, I buy vinegar. I'm going to have enough. I thought I was going to have to open another one. I'll use this to clean off the rims of the jars too, so I'm going to leave it out to be sure there's no stickiness on it, so they'll be sure and seal. Another thing that I'll use vinegar for is I'll put a splash of it in my canner so that it helps my jars. I've got some jars here that I didn't do that. Let's see if you can see this. Yeah, you can see it. That's from hard water. That is what that's from. If you put vinegar, I put usually a couple tablespoons down in my canner, whether it's this granite canner or it's my pressure canner, and it helps keep my jars clean. Apparently I didn't do it that day. It's not that they're dirty, it's definitely just that they have not, the hard water's had a chance to just form on them. Okay, so there's that. And there's that. So I got me a couple of vinegars out here now. I store the vinegar away. During the winter, I go to Aldi's usually because they have really good price on their big jugs of vinegar. And I know I'm going to need it, so I'm picking some stuff out of here. Looks like it's pieces of my broccoli. I don't want that in here. I'm doing broccoli, peas, and maybe some carrots today. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm going to go a little easy on it. But anyway, I want you to see what's going into this pot. Let me get it where you can see it. You may not see me as well, but you can see this, which is important. Okay, so I got my recipe book here. 1.5 teaspoons of pickling salt or canning salt. This is what I use. 1.5 teaspoons. I want to be sure this goes in right now. Yes, salt. I am the world's messiest cook or canner or whatever. I just put some salt on my floor, which I just mopped yesterday. So now we need 2 cups of water. Now I'm not going to start this yet heating up because I don't want, in the process, I don't want to lose any of that to evaporation when maybe these aren't done yet or they're done. And I'm going to check them right now and see how close they are. They're just starting to boil, so we got a ways for that. All right, and now's the sugar. The spices will come in later. And the sugar, I believe, was 2 cups. That's right. I hope I like this recipe because last year I looked for I keep a diary, a garden diary. 2 cups. I have to double check everything because I don't want to mess any of this up. These ingredients are precious commodities. But I keep a diary of my journal, like what I planted and where I planted it, and I start out so meticulous because you know it's a long winter and you're just like gung-ho. And then when stuff starts really coming in, sometimes you don't get it down, and I couldn't find my recipe for pickled beets from last year. And I pickled them in the spring and I pickled them in the fall. So our next ingredients, though, I will tell you, will be cinnamon sticks, which I don't have any. I'm going to use ground cinnamon. I don't want a lot of cinnamon in them. The thing I really like in them is whole cloves. I love the cloves in it. Some of the old recipes that was my mom's, in my mom's book that she used, some of those recipes had used allspice, and I think probably today you could find a lot that would call for that too. I may just start this to come to a low heat because I like for stuff to come together for me when I'm doing it, but it doesn't always do that, of course. Okay, so I'll be back when we're ready to do another step. I thought you might be interested in this book, Home Canning of Fruits and Vegetables. Knowing my mom thumbed through it, is something that I really enjoy. It says Home and Garden Bulletin number 8, U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I turned to beets here, and pickled beets. And their pickling syrup was 2 cups of vinegar, or 1.5 cups of vinegar, and ½ cup of water. So things have changed, right? 2 cups of sugar, heat to boiling, cover with the syrup. There's nothing in here. It says pickling syrup. I saw nothing that said anything about the spices that would give it that really great pickle beet taste. Let's see. This was, I thought I read somewhere, it was 20 cents. It was for sale by the Department of Documents, United States Government Printing Office, and it was revised in February of 1957. And then here's another book that was my mom's. Doesn't have a front on it. Let's see if I can see who makes it. And I'm going to look at their beets. I looked at all of these and wished, why didn't I write mine down last year? For pickled beets, 63. Okay. This says 2 cups of sugar. Let me show you this book. Look how it's all marked up, and I mean it's got stains on it just like my books do. And my mom has written something in there. I think it's cinnamon. It says 2 cups of sugar, 1 tablespoon of whole allspice, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 sticks of cinnamon, 3.5 cups of vinegar, and 1.5 cups of water, 3 quarts of peeled cooked small beets. And the processing time is the same on all of these, which I was glad to see. 30 minutes. Now that, I need to, pints and quarts were the same in this one. Keep in mind this is an old book. And I don't see any time. I love these pictures. Look at these pictures. I love old stuff. When I get old, as the older I get, I love old stuff. And then here's a tested pickle recipe. And this book looks really old. It's all about pickle making. What if I find my favorite one in here? Beets. Canning fruit without sugar. Oh, it tells you things like at what wedding anniversary, what kind of gift do you give? That's really cool. Did you know the first is paper? The 75th is diamond. I guess so, right? I'm not being facetious about that, but I mean, you deserve a diamond, so do they. All right, I'm waiting for all this stuff to process. I have taken out some smaller ones. I'm gonna cool them down quickly now, and I'm gonna see if I want to just do some of these smaller ones that I can keep halved or whole. I want y'all to just briefly see how easy this is to peel. So I'm cutting off the root. I've cut off the top already. And look, see, do you see I can just take my hands and it's coming right off in my hands. And then I'll put it back down under the cold water, and that seems to aid it even more. Now these are so large that I'm cutting them into quarters. All right, it's moving along, y'all. Okay, got them all sliced up. I'm getting ready to put them into this bath. It's not a bath, excuse me. I'm putting them into the vinegar sugar solution, water, salt, and I'm putting in about 1.5 cups of medium onion. Some recipes don't talk about the onion. I think onion adds a lot to them. So I'm gonna stir that around. I've got it turned on high. I'm curious as to how much I'm gonna get out of this. And I keep worrying that I've got too much cinnamon in here. I'm a cook that really does go by taste a lot. So I'm gonna take a little out, maybe a lot out. I know what I like and what my family likes. Okay, I'm gonna, in went probably 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Like I said, the recipe calls for cinnamon sticks that you remove after this comes to a boil. Let's see what this says here. Pour the spices in a spice or cheese bag and add to the vinegar mixture, bring to a boil. Simmer 5 minutes. So I'm gonna simmer this for 5 minutes. I'm gonna do a little taste test here first, once I get this kind of mixed up. This burner is awfully slow. I don't know why it's so slow. It's one of those burners that it's so slow to heat up, and when it finally does, it's hard to control it. And this stove isn't that old. It shouldn't be having an issue. Let's see if I can taste it. I don't think that was too much at all. In goes the rest. So that was a teaspoon. Well, it says 2 cinnamon sticks, and I did 2 teaspoons. So you all may want to look at different recipes and decide what you want to do with them. I better give this a good stir again. The next thing we'll be doing is putting these into jars. And they cooked so well. I'm really pleased with how this is progressing. And I do have my canner back on the stove. I need to get more water in that. Okay, we're almost done. Here we are, and getting ready to put the beets and the juice into the water. I've called that everything from syrup to, now it's the juice. But it is a juice, actually. Okay, here we go. And this is strong even to inhale it with all that vinegar. And you want to fill these within 1/2 inch of the head space. I'm curious as to how much I'm going to get out of this. Now, sometimes one like that's a little bit too big. Maybe I can get it on down in there. Yep. It needs a little bit more juice. To the bottom rim right here, that is 1 inch headspace. I'm going a little above that. Okay, and I'm going to do these just kind of one at a time in an assembly line process. This is the vinegar water I told you about. Because this is a really important thing. Not only are you wiping anything away from this that might keep it from sealing, but also, ooh, that's hot. Also, you're feeling the top of that for any cracks. So I'll put this right in the middle, And you're probably tired of hearing the term finger tight, but if you get your wrist action in it too much, okay, that's finger tight. If you get the wrist in it too much, then you're going to have a problem with maybe it might buckle, the lid might buckle. I've never had that happen, but I had one that looked like it was about to do it. I have had siphoning. The last time I think I canned a curried chicken, and I had siphoning with that. Now let's see. Got to be sure I can push that down enough. Now, here's something else that some people do with beets. I don't worry about it so much. Let me find it. This is called, well, what this is for in the kit that I got is, it's to get bubbles out. And see, when I did that, I saw that I need a little bit, no, it went on down in there. I'm gonna have one sticky stove. I'm gonna eat this. I love onions. And onions just make these pickled beets so good. So I'm gonna fill all the jars, and when my canner comes to a full boil, and I'm going to cover these with about this much water, a couple inches. Once it comes to a boil, I'll start timing for 30 minutes, and then I'll turn the stove off. Here are the beets. They're out of the water bath. I ended up with 4 pints, and I save jars all year long, and my family saves them as well for me, because I learned quite by accident last year when I had made, I think it was bread and butter pickles, and I had some left over and I didn't have a jar ready for it. So I just washed out one of these pasta jars real quick, olive jars, all kinds of things. I washed it real quick just to store it in the refrigerator, and it sealed. So all last summer I used them. I used all these jars I had accumulated right along with my canning jars. Now, I never, ever, ever use them in the pressure canner. But for things where I think, okay, I'm going to give this a try, I'm water bath canning it, the jars have worked, they've not shattered, and I've never had one not seal. This one is already sealed back here, and I know this ragu, I know it'll seal as well. So I'm not trying to promote that. I'm just saying that's what I do, and it works. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. This is a good way to start it. I've got all of my beets out now until I'm ready for fall beets. Have a great day, everyone.